So guys, this is my second lecture on gender studies and the first live lecture. The topics that I will cover today are introduction to gender studies, difference between gender and women studies, multidisciplinary nature of gender studies, autonomy versus integration debate in gender studies, and status of gender studies in Pakistan. So first, let us introduce ourselves with gender studies. Gender studies is a field for interdisciplinary study devoted to gender identity and gender representation as central categories of analysis. So if you have understood this definition, let us repeat it. As I told you earlier, that we will be, I'll be a little more technical in my lectures now. So try to catch up. If this is my second lecture, so please listen to the first lecture after this lecture. So gender studies is a field for interdisciplinary study of devoted to gender identity and gender representation as central categories of analysis. This is the definition. We study gender identity and gendered representation. We analyze gender identity and gender representation in gender studies. Now, what is gender identity? Gender identity is one's personal experience of one's own gender. Like, what is my experience of my gender? What is your experience of your gender? This is called gender identity. So before this, we should also go that what is gender? Gender is the range of characteristics pertaining to and differentiating between masculinity and femininity. Depending on the context, these characteristics may include biological sex, that is, the state of being male, female, or an intersex variation, which may complicate sex assignment. Sex-based social structures, including gender roles and other social roles, are gender identity. Some cultures have specific gender roles that can be considered distinct from male and female, such as Hijra of India and Pakistan. So this is the definition of gender. That gender is the range of characteristics pertaining to and differentiating between masculinity and femininity, while in some societies there is also third gender. So in gender studies, we study gender identity. Gender identity is one's personal experience of one's own gender. Gender identity can correlate with assigned sex at birth or can differ from it completely. For example, when one person is born, so at that time, a sex is assigned. The nurse announces that a baby boy is born or a baby girl is born. So at that time, the person is declared as male or female. But later on, the gender may change. The role may change with the society. Different societies, then they provide different roles based on genders. So let us define once again, gender studies is a field for interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary means that there are different disciplines. Like there can be sociology, there can be economics, there can be political science, there can be other social sciences when we study gender studies. So this field includes women's studies. Now, women's studies, that is inside gender studies. Many people think that gender studies is only the study of women or their relationship. This is not the case. Gender studies include women's studies. Now, women's studies is about women, feminism, gender, and politics. Only about women. Men studies, the same things about men. And queer studies. So in gender study, we study women, we study men, and we study queer studies. Now, queers, we will discuss this later in a detailed lecture, which is the next part of the syllabus. But let us understand that queer studies, sexual diversity studies, or LGBT studies is the study of issues relating to sexual orientation and gender identity, usually focusing on lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, and intersex people and cultures. So when the categories are quite clear, like male and female, so when we go beyond male and female, and then we study the sexual orientation, like lesbian, male and female, gay, male and male, bisexual, which is both male and female, transgender, which is like beyond gender, and then we have queer. Queer is an umbrella term for sexual and gender minorities who are not heterosexual. Those who are not heterosexual, like they are not male and female. For example, male when they like female and female when they like male. So this in-between category, that is called queer. So we study male, female, and queer in gender studies. When we combine these three, then this subject is called gender studies. Sometimes gender study is offered together with the study of sexuality. We also study sexuality in gender study, especially human sexuality. Now, what is human sexuality? That is the quality of being sexual, or the way people experience and express themselves as sexual beings. This involves biological, erotic, physical, emotional, social, or spiritual feelings and behaviors. When all these behaviors are based on sex, so then this is called sexuality. So what we study in gender studies, we study gender identity, gendered representation, women studies, men studies, queer studies, and sometimes it is connected with sexuality. This is the scope of gender studies, and this is the like introduction to the general gender studies. Now, these disciplines study gender and sexuality in the fields of literature, language, geography, history, political science, sociology, anthropology, cinema, media studies, human development, law, and medicine. It also analyzes how race, ethnicity, location, class, nationality, and disability intersect with the categories of gender and sexuality. When we study all these disciplines within gender studies, this is why it is interdisciplinary. Here, discipline means subject. So there are different subjects which are involved, and we study, for example, in literature, so we study the role of women, the role of men, the role of third gender, transgender, or queer groups, lesbians, homosexuals, gays. So we study all this in literature. We study this in sociology, in political science, in anthropology, in all these subjects. So this is why this is a multidisciplinary nature of gender studies. Gender studies has a lot of disciplines involved. Discipline means subjects. A lot of subjects are involved when we try to understand gender studies. Now, one of the sociologists, he says that what is gender? He says that one is not born a woman, one becomes one. When you are born, so you are maybe woman or man, one becomes woman. What it means? That this is the role of society which makes you woman or which makes you man. For example, if a kid, a baby is born in a jungle and there is no one and she or he is just taking natural food, so nobody will be nobody will discuss that this person is male or female. Later on, then the people tell that person that you are a woman, you should behave like this, you are a man, you should behave like this. So society makes you women or society makes you men. So the term gender should be used to refer to the social and cultural constructions of masculinities and femininities, and not to the state of being male or female in its entirety. Like male or female, it can be like something biological. But when we study this in the context of sociology, so then we call it gender. Social and culture makes the thing gender, while biology makes you male or females. But some gender scientists, they don't agree with this definition of gender. They then consider that gender and sex both are the same thing. Now, gender is pertinent to many disciplines such as literary theory, drama studies, film theory, performance theory, history, anthropology. As already I discussed that in many sciences we study gender. That's why the feminist theory of psychoanalysis, that is very important. That when we try to understand psychologically the personality of a person, so we must go what was the gender that this person was identified. The gender representation, that is more important for the development of personality. We can also give three categories to gender: gender identity, gender expression, and biological sex. How you identify yourself, how you express yourself as male or female, and what is your biological sex. You are born male or female. So these three categories are another way of breaking down gender into different social, biological, and cultural constructions. These constructions focus on how femininity and masculinity are fluid entities and how their meaning is able to fluctuate depending on the various constraints surrounding them. It means that gender identity, that is more with the surroundings, that is more with the society. For example, a male will feel male everywhere. If you are in Europe, if you are in Asia, if you are in Africa, you are a male or you are a female. But the role which is assigned to you, like for example, in Saudi Arabia, the woman may not drive. So the role of driving only for male, that is a gender role which is assigned in Saudi society for men. But in Europe or in United States or in Canada, you cannot think over it that a woman can drive or cannot drive. Driving, the role of driving is the same for male and female. There is no difference between that. Now, what is the difference between gender and women studies? So gender studies, they focus on male, female, as well as queer, the third gender, while women studies, that only focuses on women. There is a debate, autonomy versus integration, in gender studies. That, for example, should the gender studies should be autonomous, like we should only study women's studies, we should focus only on women, or this should be integrated with other disciplines, with other departments. For example, in a university, Should the women only focus on women's studies, or we should also integrate, like connect, we should bring it together with the other sciences? So then this is a debate. Many people there in the favor of autonomy, like many feminists, they say that women should have an autonomous role and they should focus on their studies, on their development, and on their discussion only independently. While integration means that we must integrate it with other departments, with other people, with other professors, and women should not be studied as an island. Women should be studied exclusively only women, because women are also human beings. They are the same as men. So why we are differentiating women as a separate category? Why we are giving an autonomy in the gender studies to women? So it is a debate. Personally, I think that women, when we focus especially on the history development of women rights, so we should discuss women exclusively. But to understand women as a human being, then we need an integrated approach. So this debate, it's a debate which is going on in many feminism circles. They always discuss that should women be only discussed only as women, or it should be integrated with other disciplines. The status of gender studies in Pakistan, there are many universities that they are offering like bachelor, BA studies and masters, and there are in Karachi University, for example, they are publish a gender studies magazine journal. So now, because of the NGOs and because of the development sector, now gender studies is getting popularity in Pakistan. So people should not confuse gender studies with women's studies. This is to study the role of the role which is assigned to male or female or to third gender. So then that is called, this study is now getting popularity in Pakistan, but it's a new discipline in many universities, in many colleges. So this was my first lecture, my first live lecture, and this is my second lecture on gender studies. I will be trying to touching all the topics in the syllabus. So this was introduction to the gender studies, difference between gender and women's studies. Multidisciplinary nature means that gender studies is not only studying gender, but you have to study like women in philosophy, you have to study women in political science, you have to study women in economics, in sociology, in many other disciplines. And then I discussed this debate that women should be studied as typically as women, or it should be integrated with other disciplines. Now, if you have some questions, so I will be happy to answer those questions. Tanya Choudhury, sir, please discuss about some basic tips for those students who are now students of university and want to appear in. Tanya, this is my lecture on gender studies. So I will come some other time on my general discussions. We will go there. I want to just focus now on gender studies. Those who are appearing in 2020 and they are taking gender studies as their optional subject, so they should watch my first lecture, and this is my second lecture. And each and every topic in the syllabus I will be discussing with time. And you have like 2020, a lot of time is there, so please, we will discuss. So Khan, if it was helpful, so I will request you that you please write a summary of this lecture. Once I finish now, within 2 minutes, I'm going to finish this lecture. So you listen to it again and then write a summary of my today's lecture and answer the questions: introduction to gender studies, difference between gender and women's studies, multidisciplinary nature of gender studies, autonomy versus integration debate, and the status of gender studies in Pakistan. So if you can give me some more information, because I'm not in Pakistan, so how gender studies is seen in Pakistan, how the people are taking this subject, because it's a new subject. In CSS also it is introduced recently. So what is its status in Pakistan? So please write some points on it. I'll be coming like off and on my lectures because I'm in Canada now. It is like 8 p.m. here. It is too early here there in Pakistan. I know that many people, they are not online, but still I'm recording this lecture, my second lecture on gender studies, and then it is just luck and chance when it will be my next lecture. If you have any question, Hiba, Yasir, on today's topics, so please you can ask. And if not, so please, okay, Khan, please summarize it. Write a summary of my lecture because this is just speaking. Many people, they may not understand it. So if you write it, so then that will be easy for those people who understand learning by reading, not by listening. Because some human beings, when they listen to a lecture, they understand. Some, when they read, so they understand better. So help me in that, Khan. I need that this group should be made more active, and we should try to focus on gender studies as well as sociology. Thank you very much. So nice of you.